So once an API endpoint is created, clicking into it opens up the API endpoint detail page, and this is where everything really comes together. Looking at the index endpoint here, we can see all the configuration we set. It's a GET request with a root of model, the pagination shape is paginate with 10 items per page, and all the other settings like cache endpoint, create resource on post are all visible here. You can edit or delete the endpoint from here as well. But the really exciting part is the two tabs next to API endpoint detail, requests and responses. Let's click on requests first. This is where you define what data your API endpoint expects to receive. And here's where the column accessibility setting we configured earlier really pays off. Remember when we set columns as accessible to user and form or system backend or specific routes? Jeerokode has used that information to automatically build the request object for this endpoint. You can see a request called userCreatePost request has already been generated, and when we click into it, we can see it already contains username, email, password hash, and date of birth, all the columns we marked as user-facing fields, automatically pulled in and organized into this request object. Each field in the request has a validations button. This is where you define the validation rules for that specific field in this specific endpoint. For example, you can make email required and validate that it's a proper email format, make username have a minimum length, make password hash required and so on. This gives you very granular control over validation per endpoint rather than just at the model level. You can also drag and reorder the fields using the drag handle on the left, which controls the order they appear in the generated forms and DTOs. And at the top there's a design request layout button, which lets you visually arrange how these fields will appear in the front-end form for this endpoint. The request also has two more tabs, Authorizations and Events. Authorizations lets you define which roles can access this endpoint, so for example only admins can access the user list endpoint, while the register endpoint is public. And Events lets you attach actions that should happen when this endpoint is triggered, like sending a welcome email after a user registers, or triggering a notification after an order is placed. This level of detail means that by the time Jeerokode generates your code, every endpoint already knows exactly what data it accepts, what validations to apply, who can access it, and what should happen when it's called. That is a complete backend specification, all defined visually without writing a single line of code.